completely ended, isn't it? So, according to me, this is the high time for you to prepare your board exams and all, isn't it? So, accordingly, recently the education department has taken a new initiative, that is exclusively for English medium students, and the classes has been started. So, accordingly, we shall discuss today from political science part B, the first chapter, challenges of nation building. But before that, I want you to recall certain matters that you have studied in class 11, which will help you to understand actually the problems of nation building. So, what are the topics I want you to recall, especially the features of state and the difference between a state and a nation. Ultimately, it will be helpful for you to understand what were the challenges faced by our nation builders here. Okay? So, let us see the features of a state. What are the features of a state? First of all, you have already studied in class 11, but just for a recall, a state must have a definite territory or boundary, you can call. Then it must have definite population, it must have a government for running the administration, and then the sovereignty. So, these four are the basic features of a state, without which we cannot call it a state. But do you think these features are enough to call it a nation? Of course not, isn't it? That you have studied already in class 11. So, what makes it a nation? Yes, of course, I have written here the feeling of oneness, the feeling of oneness, then the unity among the citizens, and ready to serve for the nation. So, all included, if we want to discuss here, that feeling of oneness, and they are ready to serve for the nation, even they can give up their lives also. That makes it a nation, isn't it? So, that makes the difference between a nation and a state. Now, the point is, we are actually discussing challenges of nation building. Say for example, one realistic example I want to give you from our real life. Say one construction is started. Now, what are the basic things needed for continuation of that construction? Of course, the raw materials, the bricks, cement, iron bars and all, then regular supply of laborers, and of course, the weather condition should be favorable. So, if these three are getting continuously by the owner of the construction, then it will go smoothly, isn't it? Now, the thing is that if any one of from these matters, if missing, then the construction cannot go smoothly. I hope you can realize. Now, think about you as a student of class 12, you want to build up your life, you are making your life, you have set for your studies on your study table, you have decided that yes, today I shall finish these certain questions, I must learn today itself very carefully. But one of your family member in the adjacent room putting the TV at high volume, then how you feel? How do you feel? Of course, you are disheartened that you cannot concentrate in your study, or maybe some people are fighting on the road, you are getting disturbed, you cannot concentrate, you cannot focus in your study. So, when you cannot build up yourself, you cannot build up your life in certain disturbances in where there is no such environment for your studies, and as I told you, the problems with the construction of a building. Now, just think the building of a nation, how challenging it was for our nation builders. Let us see what were the challenges faced by our nation builders. Of course, you know, on the eve of 15th August, our first Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru has delivered his famous speech, the Tryst with Destiny, isn't it? You have heard that speech, isn't it? Jawaharlal Nehru speech. What is the speech? That one, that famous speech? Tryst with Destiny. Tryst with Destiny means now the incessant responsibilities has come on us. Of course, the people of the country has struggled a lot It was a long struggle, around 200 years. People of the country suffered, tortured, even millions have given up their lives, okay, for the sake of the freedom, isn't it? Now, on the eve of 15th August, when our first Prime Minister was delivering his speech, that is the tryst with destiny, what was his view? He was telling that, of course, we have struggled a lot, and now we have got the responsibility, and the millions and millions of our people, they dreamt about a free country where the poorest of the poor can enjoy the freedom. Now, how to achieve that goal? It was not at all an easy one. There are various views. As soon as India got freedom, there are various types of views regarding the achievement of certain goals. But on three matters, the leaders, the common people all agreed with. What were those three matters? Let us see. The three challenges faced by our nation builders, okay? Three challenges. What were these three challenges? First of all, maintaining unity of the nation. Second, establishment of democracy. And third, uniform development of the nation. These were the three challenges faced by our nation builders on the eve of independence. We are talking about the first one, maintaining unity of the nation. Our nation builders has given first preference to the unity of the nation, because all of us we can realize that it is almost impossible to continue the development without the unity of the nation, isn't it? Where there is no unity, there is no development. Okay, there is proverb, no, united we stand and divide we fall. So at any cost, the unity of the nation must be maintained. But here is the problem, because we know that our country, our motherland India is a land of diversities. Lot many languages, culture, custom, religion, various types of diversities are there. Now in all these diversities, maintaining unity, isn't it a tough job? Don't you think it? The toughest job even, we can say. Okay, suppose a country where there is people belonging to the same religion or speaking almost the same language. So, isn't it maintaining unity will be much easier over there? Of course, isn't it? But that was not for us. As our first Prime Minister said that it is the incessant responsibilities. We are having the huge, gigantic task for us. Among these diversities, we have to maintain the unity, because after all, we have to maintain the development of the nation. Now, second comes establishment of democracy. The people of our country suffered a lot for around 200 years under the foreign rulers, under the British. They have seen what type of rulers they were, the foreign rulers, that harsh punishment, brutal punishment, and all kind of inequalities, discrimination among the people of our country. Okay, dividing the people on the basis of religion. Hope you can recall about the incident of 1857, the revolt of 1857, how this division of religion started in our country. So accordingly it continued. You know their policy, divide and rule policy. Accordingly they continued. But the thing is that with that policy, they could not continue furthermore, and ultimately we have got the independence. Now the question is, how to establish democracy in true sense in our country. Now some countries which have got independence almost around when we got the independence in the contemporary period, they did not prefer for this tough way, that is establishment of democracy in true sense. Then what they did? Either they continued running the country by the single party or by a single ruler in a dictatorial manner, because they realized that establishment of democracy in true sense, it is really a challenging one. So they could not do it, but our leaders accepted the challenge. Okay, let's see, we shall establish democracy in true sense. One thing we can be proud of is that from the very first election, we have really utilized universal adult franchise. The elections were held in our country from 1950 onwards, the first general election, and from then onwards, all the adult people, that time the voting age was 21 years, Later on it was changed to 18 years. Okay, very recently, after I think completion of your class 12, many of you will be appearing, will be able to cast vote, isn't it? You are becoming adult. So, from the very beginning, from the first general election, all the adult people of our country got the voting right. That is called universal adult franchise. It was not at all a easy job. It was really very challenging, because out of around 17 crore voters, only 15% of them were literate. Now many were talking about that this voting system was a mockery. Okay, it was just like fun, because where there is only 15% literate people, then is it justifiable to apply universal adult franchise? Will those people, will those huge number of illiterate people cast their vote judiciously? There are various arguments against the application of universal adult franchise. But our nation builders determined enough that no, we must provide this facility, this right to all the people of our country, means all the adult people of our country. If you take the example of USA or England, they also could not introduce universal adult franchise from the very beginning, because women over there, women of USA or in England or some other countries, developed countries, so called developed countries, they could not introduce universal adult franchise in true manner. But we can feel proud regarding this, because from the very first election that took place in 1950, then onwards, all the voters got the voting right. No discrimination on the basis of religion or caste or gender, nothing. So that way we can really feel proud. So that is the establishment of democracy. One more thing here, our nation builders had enough confidence on the people of our country, that because our country people had realized that how harsh the rulers can be, then we have to be very judicious, very careful now, as we are living in a free country, to choose the leaders who will rule us, our representatives. Then if we do not choose our representative judiciously, then of course who will suffer? We will suffer. So that was the realization among our people, and our leaders knew that. That's why they were confident enough about the establishment of democracy in our country. The third challenge, uniform development. What does this term mean, uniform development? Uniform development means specially giving privileges to those people who were downtrodden, who were living under the poverty line. Okay, those who could not even get 2 square meal for the survival, but they also contributed in the freedom struggle. So they have the right to enjoy the taste of freedom. If our leaders fail to achieve that goal, then simply it is not enough to say that we are living in a democratic country. So these were the 3 challenges faced by our nation builders just after the independence. Now let us discuss some realistic problems that were there existing that time in our country. What were those problems? Let us see. The first problem was regarding the partition. partition of the problem. Problems related to partition. Problems related to partition. First of all, we know that British ruled over one country, but handed over two countries. Isn't it? British ruled over one country, Bharatvarsh. But when we got the independence, they handed over two countries. What were those two countries? Yes, of course, all of you know. That is India and Pakistan. But as I am telling, it was not that easy. The problem was beginning. The partition brought the problem actually, not the solution. Okay? So, when we got the independence, it was given on the hands of two nations. Secondly, we shall see what are the problems, other problems related to this. Actually, no single belt of Muslim majority. There was no single belt of Muslim majority people in our country. We have to think about the originator, the person who has devised the two nation theory. Okay, I think you know, you heard about two nation theory. Who devised this theory? Two nation theory, of course you know, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, isn't it? Muhammad Ali Jinnah, okay, the leader of Muslim League, he introduced the theory of two nation. What was his view regarding this theory? Why he introduced the two nation theory? According to him, it was said that there are many intra-communal divisions. Say for example, within Muslims, there are Shia groups, then Sunni groups, then some Punjabis were Muslims, then Afghans, various intra-communal divisions are there within the Muslim community. Similarly, in Hinduism also, among the Hindus also, there are intra-communal differences, say like Brahmins, Kshatriyas, then Bengalis, then Marathis. So, all these intra-communal differences were going to be abolished. Then, of course, all will be preferable, all will be allowed to go to visit the mosques, temples and all these things according to their religion. So, intra-communal differences will be abolished because the countries were going to be divided on the basis of only two religion. So, that was the concept behind the two nation theory of Muhammad Ali Jinnah. Now, what our Prime Minister Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru was talking about the situation, he said that actually there were in 1951 there were around 15% Muslims still living in our country in 1951, though the country got divided in 1947. Now, the view of our Prime Minister was that the other religious groups which were living in Pakistan, they may not be treated properly, they were ill treated, we knew it very well, but we the Indians must not treat badly the people of other religion who were surviving here. You see the percentage, that is around 15% of people of Muslims were there in India in the year 1951. So, according to our Prime Minister, first Prime Minister, they should not be ill treated. Hope you got the point, isn't it? Now, there was no single belt of Muslim communities in our country, as I told you. So, how the country would be divided on the basis of religion? There were two major parts of the Muslim majority regions in our country. What were these two major regions? One is the present day is Pakistan. Okay, earlier it was called West Pakistan and East Pakistan, the present day Bangladesh, isn't it? So majority group of Muslims were living not in one region but in two regions, one on the west, the present day is Pakistan we call, and the other on the east side, eastern part of our country, that is East Pakistan. It was known as, presently known as Bangladesh. So the country has to be divided not in two parts, actually in three parts. Okay, does this solve the problem? Not at all. This was the beginning of the problem, rather we say, because on both the sides, either in India or in Pakistan, there were minority groups of people. A huge number of minority groups of people means belong to other religion other than Islam. Those people were surviving over there. Now how they were treated, that was known to our nation builders. So this minority problem on both the sides was a big issue. We must remember it. Minority problem on both the sides of the country. Okay? So these minority groups were ill treated. Now how to solve this problem? Again, certain parts of our country, say for example Punjab, then Bengal, these were the regions which became most sensitive regions, because though there were minority groups on the other part, but they were not being treated properly. So the matter has to be settled. How to settle the matter? It was not an easy job at all. Now we shall see what were the other problems involved with this partition. It was the, we can call it the world's largest unplanned migration. Why we are calling it the world's, one of the world's largest unplanned migration? Why we are calling it? Because around 80 lakhs of people migrated from one country to the other. Among them, almost 10 lakhs of people were killed and millions were injured, brutally tortured. Especially women and the children were the worst sufferer. These two groups suffered a lot. Especially while migrating, women were abducted, they were raped. Even the same family member, from the same family member, they killed the women members of their family. That was called the family's honor, for maintaining the honor of the family. Such brutal things took place in our country. Just imagine. Okay, so we are calling it one of the world's largest unplanned migration, where 10 lakhs, more than 10 lakhs people were killed and millions were injured. Got the point, I hope. Now, to settle the refugees was another big challenge. Now see, many problems are coming with the partition. Yes, of course, some people suggest that partition solved some problems also. The problem of religious minorities was solved by the partition. Okay? But the problems generated from the partition, we can't forget those. Isn't it? The thing is that some people said that many filmmakers, print media, electronic media, they flashed these matters that it was not just the division of the countries, it was the division of the hearts, division of the soul. The people who worked together for a long period of time struggled to get the independence. Now suddenly, by the announcement of the partition, they started distrusting each other. You see the situation, how pathetic the situation was, isn't it? For years, for generation after generation, people are living together, and suddenly by the announcement of the partition, those people, the community, different communities started disbelieving each other, distrusting each other. And just think about the partition, it was not just the partition of the land, it was the partition of everything. Say for example, the railway department. Railway department got divided. The employees working in the railway department, they got divided. Some started working in Pakistan, West Pakistan or East Pakistan, and the others were there working in India for India. The chairs, tables, typewriters, everything got divided. How pathetic the situation was. So, lot many problems were involved with the partition. Got the point? It was not just the division of two nations, it was the division of the people, as I said. Now we shall go to the other part of this, that not all the Muslims were interested to join with Pakistan. Okay, this is also a big issue here. Okay, the problem of partition we are discussing here, actually not all the Muslims were interested to join Pakistan. See, one of the best example is Frontier Gandhi, who is known as Frontier Gandhi. Frontier Gandhi. About whom I am talking about? Of course you know. He was none other than Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan. Okay? He was one of the most eminent leader of the northwestern frontier province. Okay? He is also called Frontier Gandhi, Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan. He never had the faith on the two nation theory of Muhammad Ali Jinnah, and he never wanted to join with Pakistan. But in the legislature, his voice was not heard. His claims were not given any importance, and he was bound. He was forced to join with Pakistan. So just imagine, as our first Prime Minister said that in 1951 itself, around 15% of the Indians were belonging to the Islam religion, then how should we treat with them? If we fail to treat them properly, then of course the body politic, okay, the total administrative system, the structure of the administration will get spoiled. So that was the situation. So lot many problems were involved with the partition we have seen. Okay, we are talking about certain realistic ground problem faced by our nation builders along with those three challenges. So let us recall what were those three challenges. That maintaining the unity of the nation, that was the first and foremost demand of our nation builders, that because we know where there is no unity, there is no prosperity, and our sole aim is to develop the nation. Then how can we continue the development without the unity? So that was the first challenge. Then the second one, establishment of democracy, because our nation builders had firm faith on the people of the nation that yes, they may be illiterate, they may be poor, but they can cast vote judiciously. They can truly elect to select the representatives. Okay, through election, they will do the best selection of our leaders. So our leaders had firm faith on our country people. And the third one, the development. In the later chapters, there will be detailed discussion on this, but let me tell you in brief about this, that while thinking about the development also, there are certain issues arose here. That what type of developmental model shall we accept? There were two types of developmental model here. Either it was a liberal capitalist model or the other one was socialist model. As I am telling you, in the later chapters there is detailed discussion on this, but just for a minimum idea I am telling you this one, so that your ideas will be enriched, your knowledge will be enriched. Okay? That is why. So this development was a big issue for our nation builders. Now we shall see another realistic problem faced by our nation builders on the eve of independence. What was the second problem? The second problem was integration of princely states with the Indian Union. Okay? Till now we have seen the three challenges. See, I am telling you, some questions can be asked from here. Say for example, who has delivered, short type of questions I am telling you, okay? Who has delivered the famous speech, Tryst with Destiny? The answer is the first Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru. Then what were the three challenges faced by our nation builders on the eve of independence? Already you have learnt what were those three challenges. The first one was maintaining unity of the nation. The second challenge was establishment of democracy in true sense with inclusion of universal adult franchisee. And the third one, uniform development, especially to uplift the downtrodden ones, those who are living below the poverty line. The condition of those people must be uplifted. So these were the three challenges. Okay? Questions can be asked on these matters also. Okay? Now we shall see another important question here. What were the problems related to the partition of the countries? We have discussed many points here. Okay? As we said, it was one of the largest unplanned migration. Why we are calling it one of the largest unplanned migration? Because none was ready for this division. Where they would go, where they would settle, what about their livelihood, how they would earn, what about their fooding, lodging, nothing was decided. Suddenly, by overnight, the decision was taken that you have to shift to the other country. And millions of refugees were coming from the other country. To settle those refugees, to ensure about their earning, livelihood, these were the big challenges for our nation builders. So this is a very important question from this chapter, that what were the problems related to partition of the country, partition of India and Pakistan. Okay? The question can be asked. Now we shall go to the other part of this chapter, other problem faced by our nation builders, that is integration of princely states, with the Indian Union. Okay? This was the second problem, real ground problem faced by our nation builders, integration of the princely states with the Indian Union. Actually, in British India, when the British was ruling over here, there are two types of states here. Okay, one was in British India, there were two types of states here. Okay, one was British Indian provinces, British Indian provinces, and the other is princely states. Princely states. How many princely states were there? Around 565. Just see the number. Just imagine. 565 princely states were there. Okay. Now, the British government, while leaving our country, they have given three options in front of those princely states rulers. Okay, what were the three options? Let us see. What were the three options given to the rulers of the princely states while British was leaving? The three options were to join with the Indian Union, or join with Pakistan, or number 3, rule independently. Rule independently. These were the three options given to the rulers of the princely state by the British government while leaving this country. Now, as I told you, there were 565 princely states at that time in our country. You just think about one state present day, Odisha. Many small states over there were there which were ruled by princes or kings. Okay, they were ruling over there. Now, when they have got these three options, that either they could join with the Indian Union, or they can go with Pakistan, or else they could continue ruling as they were ruling from the beginning. Means independently they could rule their states without being joined with the Indian Union or Pakistan. Now, when they have got these provisions, many of the rulers of princely states decided that they will continue ruling by themselves. Okay, they have gone for the third option. Now, who are these rulers? Let us see. These rulers were initially the ruler of Travancore, then Nizams of Hyderabad, or the rulers of Bhopal. Okay, like that many provinces, many princely states demanded that they will continue ruling by themselves. Now, there were three realistic grounds regarding this problem. Actually, our nation builders has got three criteria here. Okay, three opportunities they have found. The first thing is that the citizens of the princely states wanted to join with the Indian Union. It was quite common because people have struggled a lot for many years, generation after generation, to get the freedom. Then how come when the country has got independence, again they will be ruled by any dictatorial ruler, any prince or king within a democratic country. So that was not having any justification. So our nation builders got the concept that yes, the citizens, the people of those princely states are eagerly waiting for joining with the Indian Union. So it was a great advantage for our nation builders because they have got the consent from the people. People are very much interested to join with the Indian Union, though their rulers were not interested because nobody wants to abandon the power. I hope you can realize, isn't it? Nobody wants to abandon the power. Now those rulers of the princely states, they wanted to continue with the third option, as I said, without joining the Indian Union, without going with the Pakistan, they wanted to continue ruling by themselves. Though the people of those princely states were eagerly waiting to join with the Indian Union. That was the concept behind. Now at this time, at this juncture of time, our leaders were flexible enough. Okay, the leaders were flexible to provide provincial autonomy. Provincial autonomy. Okay, means what we are talking about? The leaders thought that as there are so many princely states, then it is not possible to bring all them together and to make the Indian Union stronger. Of course, we have to do, no doubt, but up to a certain extent, the rulers of those princely states can be given some flexible power. Here in the sense means they could continue with the ruling, but the joining, the integration, that concept, the agreement should be done. And here we must remember one thing, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, who was the Deputy Prime Minister as well as the Home Minister of our country, okay, that time, he took the great initiative for the integration of princely states with the Indian Union. So we must remember his contribution regarding this matter. Okay, our first Deputy Prime Minister and as well as the Home Minister Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, as I told, has taken great initiative for the integration of those princely states, but with some flexible manners and all. Then we have to think about, it was not that easy. We are talking about the integration of the princely states, but actually it was not that easy. From some places huge objections came over there. Say for example, the Nizams of Hyderabad. That time Nizam was one of the richest men of the world. Enough wealth they were having. Then why should he join with the Indian Union? He preferred to continue with his own ruling system, own administration. He hardly bothered to join with the Indian Union. Okay, but the people, okay, of Hyderabad were eagerly waiting for joining with the Indian Union. They wanted to choose their own representative because they felt that when we are living in a democratic country, then why should we be ruled by any provincial ruler? Of course not. So they started protesting. They came on the road and lot of revolts were started. And Nizam engaged his paramilitary force. They were called the Razakars. Okay? Razakars were the paramilitary force of the Nizam of Hyderabad. They killed many people, brutally tortured many people, and somehow the problem continued. It was not possible for the government to let the to continue the system, isn't it? That's why the Indian government engaged the Indian army to handle the situation. Okay, so Indian army and the Razakars, the paramilitary force of the Nizam of Hyderabad, there was clash, there was fighting among them, and ultimately Nizam was bound to surrender and he joined with the Indian Union. So similar incident continued further more, okay, with the other countries also, other provincial rulers also. So one by one princely states continued joining with the Indian Union, and of course, as I told you, the person whose contribution we can never forget regarding the integration of princely states with the Indian Union, he was none other than Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, okay, our first deputy prime minister as well as the home minister. Okay, so this question also can be asked. Okay, what was the role played by Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel regarding the integration of princely states? Okay, now we shall go to the other problem, other real ground problem faced by our nation builders on the eve of independence. That is the formation of states on the basis of language. Okay, formation of linguistic states. Formation of linguistic states. See, actually Indian states in the prior situation, that is I am talking about before the independence, were divided into in different way. Okay, in different way they were divided. Say for example, either those were divided on the basis of as British annexed the provinces, or later on the British divided the regions for administrative convenience, administrative convenience, or the states those were ruled by provincial rulers. Okay, so there were different ways of division of the Indian states. We know that from very beginning, after the Battle of Plassey, the annexation of the Indian state were started, isn't it? Many governor generals, they came over here and they continued their annexation of the Indian states. So as they annexed the states, accordingly the territorial boundary was decided, or else those were divided on the basis of, it's a popular term used by the British government, that is called administrative convenience. What does it mean? Administrative convenience means so that the state is divided in such a manner so that it will be ruled easily, the administration can run over there smoothly. Okay, by generating this issue, actually they divided the Bengal that you have studied in history, isn't it? You can recall now. Okay, what was the reason they showed for the partition of Bengal? Of course you can remember, up to class 10 you have studied history, so you have studied about the partition of Bengal. So they showed that Bengal, as it was a very big province, so we have to divide it into certain segments so that the administration could run over there smoothly. So that is the meaning of administrative convenience. So like that they divided some parts of the country, and some other regions, some other provinces which were ruled by the provincial rulers, the princes or kings. So this was the system of division prior to the independence. But our nation builders discarded such kind of divisions. They preferred that no, as we want the more democratic system, so we have to introduce the we have to divide the states on the basis of language. That is called the linguistic states. Hope you get the point. Okay. Now, while forming the states on the basis of language, initially our nation builders actually wanted to postpone the matter. They thought that we are having other more big issues, very grave matters are there, more important problems are there to solve, instead of dividing the states on the basis of language. As we have already discussed, you have seen, that is maintaining unity of the nation. That was the foremost challenge, the most important matter to be maintained, because without unity, no progress, no development is possible. And the second one, uniform development, especially looking after the downtrodden ones, the underprivileged ones, those who were mostly discriminated, okay, either before the struggle or during the struggle. We need to develop their situation. So that was the condition. Now, the situation was that these people had to be looked after. So instead of solving those problems, that is the unity of the nation and development of the nation, we should not focus on the division of the country on the basis of languages. So they wanted to postpone the matter actually, okay, but there were demands from various regions of the country, okay. Many people were demanding about the formation of linguistic state, which could not be overlooked by our nation builders. Say for example, the Vishalandhra movement, okay, the first one we should say here, Vishalandhra movement, okay, because the demand was made for the formation of separate state of Andhra, okay, and the Tamil speaking regions, especially from Tamil Nadu, then Karnataka, those places were also wanted to be separated from here. So these divisions on the basis of languages was a big issue for us. I hope you can get the point clear here. Okay. Actually, those who were in the favor of this division, they called it more democratic. Okay. The people, those who were in favor of the formation of linguistic states, they called it more democratic. Means we can provide more democratic ideas, more freedom to the people as they form the states on the basis of language. Hope you can get the point, isn't it? So similarly, one by one states were formed, and the government of the nation was bound to form State Reorganization Commission. Okay, State Reorganization Commission was formed. Okay, State Reorganization Commission for the formation of various states on the basis of language was formed. So when Andhra Pradesh, okay, the state of Andhra was formed, there was a history behind. One of the veteran Congress leader, okay, the follower of our Gandhiji, he also continued the struggle for the separate Andhra state, and he continued fasting. When the state was not formed, he continued fasting for around 56 days, and unfortunately he died after 56 days of fasting. So there was huge revolt, huge number of people came on the road protesting against this matter, and ultimately our Prime Minister announced about the separate state of Andhra. Similarly, some other states were formed, say for example Punjab and Haryana, okay. Then similarly other states were also formed from here, and you know the formation of it continued, the process continued, because as I said, some people call it more democratic, okay. You think about the formation of Jharkhand, okay, then Uttarakhand, okay, Chhattisgarh. These states are comparatively new in formation, isn't it? Then in 2014, the state which was formed on the latest manner, what is that? Telangana, isn't it? So the formation of states on the basis of language, it continued, of course we know. So almost we have discussed various challenges and some real ground situations, okay, we have realized. So we can recap little bit from here that what were the challenges faced by our nation builders. It is of course the unity of the nation and establishment of democracy and development of the nation. And what were the challenges they faced? It is about the problem of the partition they had to solve, then integration of the princely states, and to solve the problem of linguistic states. Okay, hope the points are clear to you. If you go through the book, of course it will be very easy for you to understand. All of you, take care. Thank you all.